All right, greetings to all the participants present here today. We are delighted to kick off yet another thought provoking session on connecting the dots. First and foremost, we extend our gratitude to our esteemed speakers for their participation in this panel discussion. A warm welcome to all. Ms. Kaushiki Srivastav, HR Director of Ubisoft, Dr. Debjani Roy, Chief HR Officer, Mind Your Fleet, Ms. Hina Dhameja, EVP and Head HR of Religare Broking Limited, and Ms. Ridhima Wali, Founder CEO of Naira Leadership Consulting. In the recent years, the call for the greater gender diversity and inclusivity in STEM fields has gained significant traction. Despite progress, women continue to face numerous barriers that hinder their full participation and advancement in these crucial sectors. From systemic biases to cultural stereotypes, the challenges are multifaceted and complex. However, concerted efforts are being made worldwide to address these issues and create environments where women can thrive and contribute their invaluable talents to the ever evolving landscape of STEM. HRAI welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots. Our esteemed panelists would share their views on this insightful topic, Women in STEM, Overcoming Barriers and Promoting Inclusivity. To know more about HRI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session, so request all the participants to give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege of introducing our moderator for today's session, Ms. Ridhima Wali, founder and CEO of Naira Leadership Consulting. Ms. Ridhima is an anchor, facilitator, and communication specialist with a decade-long dedication to leadership development. Her journey began at Alembic Pharmaceuticals, where she honed her skills in learning and development, sales, training, and competency grid design. Later, as management partner at the Center of Strategic Mindset, she collaborated with top-tier clients, including Big Four firms and Fortune 500 companies, driving initiatives in innovation, strategy, and leadership development, and positively impacting 10,000 plus leaders worldwide. The onset of COVID sparked a profound curiosity in her. Through extensive research and dialogue with over 500 business leaders, she uncovered a pressing need for a more creative, strategic, and communicative workforce. This insight led to the inception of Naira Leadership Consulting, where they aim to impact a million lives by 2025, empowering individuals through the unique objective of people development at its heart. Since then, they have transformed the career trajectories of thousands of professionals, including senior leaders and C-suite executives. You can follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. And without wasting much time, I will hand over the platform to Ms. Rhythm. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Faisal, for that very eloquent introduction and context setting. Hi, good afternoon to all my dear participants. I just want to make sure that you all can hear me well. If yes, you can hear me well, please give us a thumbs up or say yes in the chat box so that we at least know that our voices are reaching you all because you all are the star of this afternoon. With this, folks, let's get started. Everyone, a significant gender gap has always persisted through decades at the levels of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines all over the world when it comes to women participating in the realm and dominion of STEM as a whole. There's a lot of work and research in and around the aspect that women are typically given smaller research grants as compared to their male counterparts. And though they represent a population of about 33% of all researchers as a whole, there are only 12% of members who are women in the national science academies. When we are talking about AI as a promising realm itself, only 1 in 5 professionals in the AI dominion are actually women, which accounts to about 22%. Now, although after the fourth industrial revolution, we need a lot of talented people in the realm of, like I said, STEM overall, but women still account for about 28% of complete engineering graduates and 40% of computer science graduates and informatics. This clearly shows that there is some disparity in the way women are represented in STEM as a whole. In India, if we talk about, there are about 43% of STEM graduates who are women, as opposed to a lot of other developed nations of the likes of US, UK, Canada, where this number is 34, 31, and 38% respectively. So if we talk about the developed versus developing economies, we are certainly ahead. But still, I think there's a lot of work that can be done when it comes to improving the women representation in the realm and dominion of STEM overall. And they say two things can change the course of your life: the books that you read and the people who you meet. And through this platform at HRAI today, we want to bring you up close and personal with three such panel members who come with impeccable depth of expertise and diversity of experiences to share their valuable insights and pragmatic suggestions about the initiatives, endeavors that can be undertaken to improve the participation representation of women in the realm of STEM. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our panel members to all of you today. We have with us Dr. Devjani Roy, who is the CHRO at Mind Your Fleet. She is a seasoned industry leader and expert in human resources, comes armed with about 2.5 decades of extensive experience across renowned companies such as Nalco, Bharti, HCL Tech, Bentley Systems, Coiny, and SRL Diagnostic, known from the Fortis Group. Holding a degree in organization behavior from FMS Delhi University, she has earned tremendous respect and recognition as a progressive HR business leader who's known for her transformative people leadership in diverse industry. Notably, her tenure as CHRO at SRL Diagnostics saw her serve as a strategic HR partner at the board level. She's acknowledged numerous times by both business and HR communities. She recently transitioned to an advisory and mentorship role, showcasing her commitment to shaping the future of HR practices and epic leadership. Dr. Devjani Roy, welcome. All right. And her LinkedIn credentials have been put in the chat box. Next up, we have Ms. Hina Dhamija, who is the EVP and Head HR at Religare Broking Limited. Ms. Dhamija is a distinguished figure in the realm of human resources, currently holds the esteemed position of Executive Vice President and Head of Human Resources at Religare Broking Limited. With a robust background in aligning people management with business objectives, she boasts a remarkable history of achieving tangible and discernible outcomes. As an alumnus of the prestigious Indian Institute of Management and a holder of master's degree in human resources from a reputable institution, Hina has actually cultivated expertise in HR transformation, productivity enhancement, leadership development, fostering a culture of learning within the organization. As we know that those who are learning are leading, she's definitely creating a fabric of leading organization. Her extensive experience spans across renowned organization where she has played a pivotal role in organization design, talent strategy formulation, employer branding, and policy innovation. She's also excelled in delivering impactful assignments, further solidifying her reputation as a dynamic and versatile leader in the field of human capital management. Welcome, Hina. We are super stoked and enthused to have you on board with us as our fellow panel member. Last but not the least, we are also joined by Ms. Kaushiki Srivastav. She is the HR director at Ubisoft. She is a creative and independent thinker, paving the way for and partaking in the continuous evolution of human resources in her own way, armed with over 1.5 decades of experience developing talent and driving innovative training solution. So, a very warm welcome to all three of you, pioneering trailblazers in your own arenas. Welcome. So I think let's get started with our conversation and dialogue. So Devjani, I'm going to be starting with you this entire set of conversation. And I think I want to cut to the chase and really get started with a very simple question here, which I think all women wonder at times whether they are at the onset of making their career, whether in STEM or any other field, but they also want to make their career and make a name for them in that career. So, my question to you is, what do you think? What kind of strategies can be really implemented to combat the institutional gender biases and the patriarchal culture within the educational institutions and STEM workplaces in India? Because there's a lot of striking evidence that sometimes it's the patriarchy and these gender biases which hold women back in their journey of career progression. So, what's your view here, Dr. Roy?
Uh, Thank you, Ridhima. That's a whole lot of things packed into one. First, first and foremost, thank you, HRAI, for giving the platform. Always a delight to be here, and great to know all of you. First time, Hina, Kaushiki, and Ridhima. It's a real pleasure. Anyway, getting, as you said, cutting the chase and getting straight to the point. I
Yes.
think your question itself had some bits of the answer. You see,
Hmm.
patriarchal society, okay? We're talking about, a subterranean culture that exists in most parts of our country where women, rather the girl child education, okay, is almost non existent to start with at the kindergarten levels, okay, despite the fact that we are talking so large and so big about investment for the girl child, making sure that the health is taken care of, they are given the right kind of foundations. But what foundation if you can't even allow them to start off in the right way, rubbing shoulders with the boys in the right kind of an environment, okay, early on in life? Because that's the way they're going to be appreciating the
Yeah.
meaning of those ABCDs, and by that I mean all the different kinds of subjects which are taught at the start. So, and if you know, I mean, at the start, it's not biology, chemistry, and all of that, it's only science. So, the
Yeah.
whole concept of science in the elementary stages is completely missing because the population of the girl child undergoing
Hmm.
education at that level is a minuscule population. And though we have the panchayatis, we have the anganwadis, we have every single kind of setups which have been brought about by both the national and the state governments. Unfortunately, they're only doing that much and not more. So, apart from that, of course, there are huge taboos
Hmm.
existing within the families they don't like. And if you look at most of the households at the subaltern levels, at the rural and the semi-urban areas, if you have a boy in the family, he will always get precedence over the
Yes.
girls for basic education. So till such time we are battling this kind of a patriarchy and we are battling these kind of taboos, we need to understand that we don't even need to talk about unconscious and conscious bias at the workplace. It is all present much before that in our
Yeah.
lifetime when we take birth and we are just about 3 and 4 years of age. So I would believe that the strategy is required at that level. We need all the social sectors. We need the government aided bodies. We need the semi government and the government bodies, both national, state, local, wherever they are, to pool in efforts together and make sure that they can create this kind of an environment. Your second part of the question talked about the workplace, the corporate,
Yeah.
and what can we do in terms of practices and policies. So we need to, we talk about diversity, but then this is
Yes.
one aspect of diversity which is completely missing, which seems to
Hmm.
be oblivious to people. Because till such time you can manage to open the doors and give the business roles to the ladies and say that you can also read the balance sheet as good as any other man, okay, we're doing great injustice. Because in my 30 years of experience in the corporate, I have come across ladies with brilliance, with intellectual capital which could defeat many men. So this is not about a man woman debate. This is not about feminism. This is not about gender politics. It's all about being gender agnostic and approaching the problem from a point of view of providing solutions. So
Hmm.
instead of continuously talking about this as a problem, I think the time has come for us, each one to look at where lies the solution and pool in efforts behind that. So organizations need to make sure there are enabling policies, need to make sure that the recruitment is definitely respecting diversity, that pay equity is brought in some measure, and assessments of performance is done in a
Hmm.
manner where it is equal for both the man and the woman, and
Hmm.
especially where the business roles are there. So this is the kind of equitable structure that we need to bring in, and we need every mind and every heart to put in efforts into this.
Wow. A lot of insights loaded in your answer. So, Dr. Rai, I'm just going to try and paraphrase what you stated. The two big insights for me personally were the aspects that even before we talk about conscious and unconscious bias at workplace, it's very important to look at us how these girl child are actually brought up
Yeah.
in rural, semi-urban arenas. And even before organization starts pooling in effort, government bodies will have to make a lot of efforts in creating this awareness that listen, you need to invest time, effort, and resources in girl
Yes.
child education. And I think that's really the root cause of where it started. We don't have enough girl children entering schools and then universities. So that's one part. And the second part was the aspect where we are not looking at balance sheet, PLN roles as genders, that men can perform better if we give women seat at the table and voice at the table, and this voice gets heard, and we say, we are merit based organization and not gender based organization. I think that would be the start point for organization in terms of the policies they bring in. Thank you so much, Dr. Roy. I think
I'm just going to add one sentence.
yes,
The role construct of
yes,
who can do a job better, okay,
yes,
and who needs to be in the staff functions and who needs to be in the line functions.
sure.
Those role constructs need to be addressed.
I think that's a valid point too. So, Dr. Roy, I have some more questions on that, but for now, I think we'll move to Hina and then I'll build the conversation from where we left with you. Hina, an extension of what Dr. Roy stated, what's your perspective on the aspect that what is the mechanism that we can actually deploy to address the disparity between the high percentage of women who are actually graduating from the STEM disciplines in India. But still, when it comes to the job deployment, it's only standing at 14%. So there's a huge disparity between the number of percentage of women who are graduating from STEM disciplines and then entering the job market themselves. What do you think are the mechanisms, initiatives, and endeavors that we can kind of bridge this gap?
First of all, thanks HRI and Redima for making me the part of this conversation. As rightly said by you, in India, the percentage is so small. Before I get into the answer, I would like to share, we all should know here, this percentage in India is 14. But if we worldwide look at this number, again, it's not humongous.
Hmm.
Total worldwide women, when we talk about 146 nations, the women comprised only 29.2 percentage of the STEM workforce.
Wow.
On contrast, we are seeing about non-STEM workforce, it has reached to 49.3, which is like equated,
Hmm.
isn't it? So in non-STEM, we have already at par at the 50%. So
Yes.
kudos to women for that. And the target should be for us to raise this overall number to the worldwide and certainly to India also, from
Yeah.
14 to reaching up to 50%.
Yes.
That should be the target, and then move on. So coming back, to the question what you have asked, this number when we see the percentage who are graduating is 43 versus how many are actually pursuing. It's
Yeah.
a number which is actually alarming, and it's a worldwide problem which we are facing.
Hmm.
So I see this situation particularly in a way that this can overcome by taking some proactive actions.
Hmm.
In spite of having been the equal access and participation in the STEM, for women and girls specifically, it's an agenda of 2030 also under sustainable development goals. Still, we see that there are organizations and our social stigma which is far behind. How we can proactively work on that? There are a few basic steps. First is to encourage women's and support
Hmm.
to the internships or the mentorship programs while they are there in the educational institutes. There should be ample of internships and job placement opportunities at the academic level in the institutes itself, so that we increase the recruitment opportunities at that level.
Hmm.
So it starts from, Dr. Devjani rightly said that how we've been brought, and then I am taking on the journey from there. Once the person is in, school or a college, so that is the time where we actually need to sow a seed that
Hmm.
yes, there are ample opportunities. You have opted for this subject, how you can be taken up, and the taste can be taken up, when we have the opportunities for internship. We are seeing that how organizations are behaving towards this stamp and welcoming to the women, and we all the organizations are aligned with sustainable development goals.
Yeah.
Second important point to this is encourage and support the women into the networking opportunities. One is that yes,
Hmm.
having that internship, but networking and mentorship is also very important, so that they being able to navigate their career path,
Hmm.
that where they will see themselves down the line after 5 years.
Sure.
The third important point, from the organization viewpoint, what I see is to implement the diversity and inclusion into the organizations, that how welcoming the organizations are, and a supportive environment for the women who are into the STEM roles.
Yeah.
Because still we see at the organizations, most of us into this forum are from a human resources background. See, there are still in the organization stigma that into this role male may fit in, so we have to come out of that bar. And we need to be more welcoming. So this
So,
is the third important point, which I feel. Fourth, but not the last, we should have some targeted trainings where
sure.
we groom all, the women, that yes, these are the development programs for them. They are not behind a male STEM person. And how it should, this training should be targeted training, given or led by the examples that yes, there are women who have reached so far, you
Yeah.
know and the list is limited to it. So we should, organizations should promote this culture. Organizations should focus on this targeted training. It is important to raise the gender awareness, to this. So this is all important. In fact, one interesting fact, Ridhima,
Yeah.
it's been a global study, in a survey in 2020 by
Hmm.
World Bank, and they reported that India could be a STEM powerhouse only
Wow.
if it can ensure the female STEM graduates are retained in the workforce.
Yeah.
So these are all for now, Ridhima.
No, I think very sagacious and very pertinent points, Hina. So, Hina, I think what I'm taking away from the conversation is providing those early exposure to women by exposing them to relevant job placement, mentorship, internship programs. So that they actually get a feel of it. Because borrowing from Dr. Roy, a lot of time the families of women are like, we don't know what kind of a world is out there. So once you get into the workplace, you don't know what kind of unknown you'll be dealing with. So I think that internship while they're studying gives them an exposure of what are the possibilities out there. And second thing, which I think I'm really picking up in a conspicuous fashion, is the networking aspect. Because there's been a research done by Sally Helgeson where from her seminal book called How Women Rise, where they said women have this thing known as a knowledge bias, that their knowledge is going to take them ahead. But beyond a certain point in that hierarchy, it's not what you know, it's also about who you know that also matters. So I think networking clearly gives women an idea that it's not about, I would say, manipulating people into believing your skills, but rather proliferating what your skills are and what you stand for. And the entire aspect of organizations embracing diversity and inclusion as a strategic mandate, and not to have like a fancy mandate to follow and see that we're a very cool organization because we follow diversity and inclusion. So I think very valid points made, Hina. We're going to be building on that dialogue in a few moments from now, but at this juncture I think I would want to shift to Kaushiki. Hi Kaushiki, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and very, very happy to meet the panelists, Debjani, Ina. Thank you, Ridhima.
Okay. So, Kaushiki, at the onset, we spoke about this aspect that we are talking about the point that intelligence itself has become the topic in spotlight. And yet, when we did like a research in terms of how many women professionals actually exist in this dominion, in this realm, and we found that 1 in 5 professionals in artificial intelligence is women, which is 22%. So, as per you, in these trendy careers to follow, like artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning, and everything to do with technology, what all we can do to persuade more women to pursue first this as an education option, and then to apply what they're learning in their education in the job market and really create a discernible impact. So, how can we encourage more women to follow this as their career?
Thank you, Ridhima. I think before I really answer about getting women to be encouraged or to enter this space, I have to say that honestly, at a workforce level, at an educational level, we are all grappling with changing technology. So
Yes.
the space of learning, relearning, and unlearning isn't changing for anyone. We're all at different stages of learning this as we speak. And I come from a gaming industry. We're heavily in the midst of every possible advanced technology that can be made, that can be brought in, and make the experience better. I've come from a world of entertainment, of telecom, of products, of manufacturing. I think technology has disrupted at every moment, and there are two answers to this, to be honest. The first part is, why only stop at education at an academic level or enter the
Yeah.
field? Because frankly, as I speak, I'm entering the field. I may have many years behind me already as a professional, but AI is happening now,
Yeah.
right? So I cannot go back to college anymore. I need to learn this now.
Yeah.
My technology in my gaming space or in my software space would be changing now. So the first answer to this is, I think, as an organization or whatever institution we are, whether a college, whether a school or whatever, we need to firstly change a little bit of our own curriculums firstly. I think we first as organizations need to
Yeah.
embrace that topic and that subject in full swing. And it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be tied into only a business goal. Let there be a vertical that also, or a task force that also kind of just learns, innovates, experiments, and explores. I think,
Hmm.
and I see this in my organization, I see this in a couple of other organizations that I speak with, that they have these war rooms and these little, generative AI task forces that are not really bringing technology right now, but they're educating themselves. And this place, honestly, if your workforce has the right base of male female population, will not have a barrier here, because here your only category of entering is, are you curious? It's not about your
Yeah.
qualification at this
Yeah.
stage. If you're already in the institution, now it's a matter of me getting you to reach that space where you're allowed to explore this. And then we will see about making a career, because I think we're still grappling with technology right now. We don't know the expanse of AI today. We're also looking at the risks and the red flags today. So today, for me to simplify this into saying, how can I bring women here? I think right now I need to bring a workforce here first.
Hmm.
Really. The second point to which I would say, in terms of the overall technological space in which
Hmm.
I think we need to definitely bring women in. It's not really a pull factor or a push
Hmm.
factor. While I do agree what Debjani said, that I think there's a systemic change that is needed, a socio-cultural kind of upheaval that needs to come in terms of realization that access needs to be improved.
Yes.
and that may not be in our control only. But what I see when I'm seeing it from the perspective of an interviewing panel, a hiring panel, a college board of educators, how am I improving access here? My access cannot improve by me going to the roots and trying to convert some 45% of a 1.3 billion population into technological industry, because
Yeah.
I can't do that. That's not going to
Yeah.
be happening. I need to actually make sure that my access barriers and entry level barriers are reduced a little bit. I need to make my processes more equitable. I need to make
Yes.
sure that I understand, I'm educating the people or influencing the people that I can, to make them understand that what we take for granted in a specifically gender specific atmosphere. Most job designs, if you read the history of it, were designed for males
Yeah.
because that was the predominant workforce gender at one point in time. It's time to relook at that. It's time to really relook at our selection criteria, to be honest, because what we may take as a aspirational quality to a particular course or a job is actually probably creating a wall between the candidate and the institution, because I'm making it look tough. I'm actually probably sounding so complicated that a woman who already had access issues, like if I put a boy and a girl siblings together, who was the first one who got a game to play? You know,
Mm. Yeah.
let's maybe not even spell out the answer, but we all know it. And in
Yeah.
that case, if I'm going to start hiring in the field of AI and technology and then say that this woman doesn't make the cut because she has less years of experience and that's my only criteria, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I need to be a little more kind about the fact that 70% of knowledge, aspiration, passion, keenness to learn is also something to value and bring people in. So improving access is where I would say inviting people would be a better way than really pushing them to move to this.
So, Kaushiki, what you're really speaking is, for me, the two big insights were from the aspect that technology itself is changing at a breakneck speed, and there are facets which we will get to learn, probably not at an institution level, but actually once we start exploring it and toying with it at workplace. So, there needs to be one systemic change. It is in a way that education is delivered. And the other aspect, I think, for me is for making it more inviting is to improve the accessibility of these jobs, these roles to women out there, and not really be ready for 100% baked cake, but rather focus on, do we have all the ingredients needed to make
Yeah.
a delectable cake? So I think very, very pertinent. Thank you so much, Kaushiki. We are going to be building on this narrative. I'm going to now zoom back to Dr. Roy. And, Dr. Roy, when we were talking, you stated this aspect that a lot is happening in the rural or semi urban arenas. Now, my question to you is, this low participation or representation of women, though I understand that at a systemic level it could be because of the number of girls who get access to education, but we also see that a lot of women end up leaving their workplace, leaving their career, which is based on their personal choices. It could be marriage, it could be kids, it could be a lot of other things. And there comes a lull period at that cusp in their career where they have done a lot. They're transitioning from mid to senior level, but at that mid level, they quit. And then coming back to the workplace becomes difficult. What would be your suggestion to these women who put in those number of years, hours, sweat in the corporate world or in the workspace, and then they kind of second guess themselves whether they're relevant for the corporate world or for the STEM world for that matter? Because we do see a lot of attrition happening there as well.
So, I think, Ridhima, I've been quite fortunate in order to be associated with organizations which have been on the right side of STEM.
Sure.
Maybe I harnessed the role of the HR, but at the
Hmm.
same, but I worked with multiple, women who were
Hmm.
scientific officers. For instance,
Hmm.
in this one, the last organization where I was the CHRO, which is SRL Diagnostics,
Sure.
100% subsidiary of Fortis, and I was on the board of directors there itself. Luckily, thankfully, we
Hmm.
could. I could push in a few. I would say enabling, policies and procedures which
Mm.
allowed for the career progression of those scientific officers to be taken up in the same way as would be for the larger group of sales and marketing or the larger, because this was one area where the women were doing brilliantly. Okay.
Mm.
The way they would tend to the reports, the way they would read the tests, the way they would actually sit down with the patients and explain stuff, it was really amazing to see the kind of dedication. And the maternal instinct comes very easy to us. So that empathy, that compassion,
Yeah.
when there was a patient who needed to hear some good words, these scientific officers, despite being from the STEM world, also had a very, very nice orientation towards delivering what was required. So
Mm.
that set me thinking that, this is one population which actually is very holistic. Okay. They
Mm.
don't necessarily need to get closeted into, either you're a business hat, you're wearing a business hat, or you're wearing a scientific hat, or you're
Mm.
wearing you're wearing a staff hat, which are the softer functions. But
Sure.
they were coming across as a powerhouse who could be, and we could take them forward by giving them an enabling environment and
Mm.
better opportunities through mentoring, through sponsorships. Now, you see, some of the problems that I encountered over there was that a lot of the owners, of those businesses and some of the management bodies would turn around and say, oh, no, no, sponsorships are for the business roles. They are the ones which are the P&L,
Yeah.
responsibilities. So most of the sponsorship, most of the big kitties of rewards and recognitions would be earmarked for those roles. That's why in the first case itself, what I did say as the last line, it's important to actually visit the role construct. We need to
Mm.
tell ourselves that it is not the men who needs to continue to play the P&L roles. Given a choice, the women can do a better job. I mean, that's
Mm.
something which I don't say it. I have enough number of examples to quote to tell you that they bring in so much of tenacity, so much of focus and determination that it's very difficult to move them away from achieving what they set their goals to be. A very dear friend of mine is today the technology head of IBM uh,
Mm.
in India, Lata Singh, and she's very well known in the fraternity. Now, one of the things that we are trying to do is, while we can't go, as rightly said by Kaushiki, we can't go to the rurals and the urbans and try and convert
Mm.
45% of the total population, but we can definitely make a beginning by using our positions, by using our voice, by using our positions at the table. And since we come from that area and there are enough women today who are shouldering such responsibilities, we can create templates, prototypes, and take it to the institutions, talk to them about it, set up programs of different kinds rather than just do generic conferences and seminars. So there is a way to approach things. There is a way to
Yeah.
work things out. Okay. But you've got to put your mind to it and find out that despite keeping things simple, how do we
Mm.
really target the core area? So one of the few things that many of us are trying to do as a cohort is we are also visiting all the institutes, the big large institutions, where when at the start of the financial year they sit down and curate the curriculum. Okay. uh, when it comes to women, most of the time they say that admissions for women would be for liberal arts. Okay. And even if we want to introduce some new courses, it would
Mm.
it would basically vacillate around those courses. But talk to them about the fact that why can't we give them a machine learning? Why can't we bring them up to addressing some of these new IoTs? Why don't we actually give them capsule courses? We get a pilot group of girls to come in and work, and let one of the universities at least champion that cause. They are very reticent about it. And they have the grants, they have the money. They can very well put in place these kind of programs. So there needs to be a shift in the thought leadership. There needs to be a shift in the mind. There needs to be an intent which is clearly spelt out, and a lot of effort needs to be put behind it. So, okay, maybe not change the world in a day, but then if the effort is right and if the movement starts, then what can't you achieve, given time? So I think we are at a very nice position today, at least India, and rightly pointed out by Hina, you know If we were to allow some of those ladies, we would be a STEM superpower. And I strongly believe in that, because everywhere, wherever those roles are played by the ladies, go and talk to them and you'll find the kind of intellectual capital that
Yeah.
they demonstrate. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing to listen to them. So I think I just want to rest my case in saying, let it be a level playing field. Let more and more of those access be given. Let it completely come, you know, agnostic to the gender part, and let everybody try and demonstrate what they've got, irrespective of these kind of diversity issues built in. I think we will see a different kind of an environment tomorrow.
I totally admire your passion with which you really presented your case, Dr. Roy. Dr. Roy, you spoke of an interesting thing where you said that even when you and people around you like Ms. Lata Singh, you're going to these institutions and talking about the aspect that why can't women be given lofty courses like machine learning and data science and so on and so forth. So you said there's a sense of reticence that you experience from the institutions itself. That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the academia, okay,
Hmm.
they, you see, it's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all business, and it's
Yeah.
sustainable business, okay.
Yeah.
Now at the end of the day, if your admission numbers fall, then you can't justify the course. I'm being very honest about this, okay.
Hmm.
People won't like my saying it so openly, but then that's the truth. That's the black and white of it. So if, supposing we put a course in place and the takers are very few, then you
Sure.
get questioned by the by the institutes like UGCs and all, that justify, why did you really have this course, why did you float it. So
Yeah.
starting from women leadership to diversity to unconscious bias and stuff like that, when we put these little modules together and create a large capsule, and we go and talk on the podiums of International Women's Day, I'd still like to say that instead of just March 8th, why can't we celebrate February 11th, which is the worldwide global day for science for women and children? Why are we not talking about that day?
Yeah.
Why are we pushing it in the background? I would rather we celebrate February and then move to March. We can create a movement
Yeah.
around it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
this, you need a cohort, you need people with like-mindedness coming together, you
Yeah.
need some amount of resources, and then only you can put these things in place. But the intent is above all most sacrosanct. The intent in a country like India sometimes just gets defeated because the roadblocks are too many.
Fair point. Thank you, Dr. Roy. Hina, I'm going to move into you now and ask you my next question. And I think some bit of it did get answered in Dr. Roy's dialogue, but I really want to know your thoughts on this question, which is about what are the initiatives, policies, and attempts that can be undertaken to improve the visibility of women in the scientific journals or those thought leadership articles? Because we also see a lot of cases where there are a lot of women authors and thought leaders out there, but they're vying for their thoughts to be recognized in eminent papers and journals. So, what are the endeavors that we can do in order to improve the visibility, recognition, and reduce the bottlenecks also along the way?
Good question. So, as we even initially talk and spoken that these initiatives may be common, and Dr.
Yeah.
Roy answered it to the extent, but, I see there are few initiatives or measures, proactive steps again to this, that what we should take in addition to encouraging and supporting a women. You
Hmm.
know we need to go an extra mile, as same as I firstly would like to step back and answer this question from the academic side. So
Yes.
we see that India is having the highest number of graduates in this STEM, and
Yes.
we all know that how that happened. It has not happened in a day, but it was all because of the initiatives by the Department of Science, Technology, various institutes, that there are specific seats, additional quotas for women. And
Hmm.
that's how worldwide, we have increased that number. And, it shows everywhere that yes, India is leading into the number of graduates.
Yeah.
Go back a decade back, this number was, phenomenally low.
Hmm.
I'm not exactly having this percentage, but it was around 23%. So it has decently increased to the level of 43.1%.
Hmm.
And it has only been possible with the support from the government, with the institutes for keeping a special quota. So I want to relate it, this situation, to a similar scenario, like we have done an extra mile in terms of graduating by keeping some extra effort or an extra quota. In the similar way, why don't we go ahead and organize some events specifically for the female scientists, you know
Yeah.
STEM field women's, by highlighting, that what is the achievement they have done, how they have went an extra mile, because
Hmm.
that's the proven method and have
Yeah.
shown the results. In add-on, I feel that by having a greater visibility and a
Hmm.
recognition to them, would certainly pay seen results, like
Hmm.
keeping a quota have helped us to given the numbers. And in fact, there are many specific programs also I would like to highlight. There is a program by the name of Kiran, which Department of Science and Technology have specifically dedicated for the STEM women who are willing to pursue their technology and their science research driven field. So there is a dedicated program. There is another program named as Gati, you
Hmm.
know so when government has taken these initiatives, and we could see we achieved a number worldwide. So let's focus on having a greater visibility by recognition, by organizing the workshops, by highlighting. There may be a chance that we may raise awareness in multiple ways, by a social media, by a press release. So all this is interrelated. It is awareness, it is events, conferences, or it may be a greater visibility and recognition on a larger platform. And I'm sure these will reap a result to us.
Hina, I think again, many sagacious points made, and you touched upon this very important theme that maybe a decade back, the representation of women in STEM was abysmal compared to what it is now, correct? And that means there have been structural endeavors led by the Department of Science, which has led to increase this percentage. And towards the end, what I heard you share is we need to have more constructive and proactive dialogues in and around STEM. Because I think in the last 3 years, if Instagram has done one thing, it has really amplified the women, the women in business, the boss ladies, as we say. And it's only recently in ISRO that we found that women can be clad in saris and they can look like housewives, but they're doing amazing work. I mean, that was the impact we
I
had when the news
second you
broke out.
on that.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then that Akshay Kumar Vidya Balan movie came. I can't recollect the name, but I think ISRO was that first moment on national television when we really realized that a scientist is not always clad in a lab coat. A scientist is much beyond that. So I think my greatest takeaway would be, of course, events, awareness campaigns, policies, but some mechanism to also make women in STEM viral and have a viral element to it. So I
Yes,
think,
even to make it infectious, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah. It's interesting. Till about 2 years back, I used to wonder that why do they call it STEM? Is it like some plant-based thing and being in leadership development? Because like I said, it's not about whether I'm intelligent or not. It's about not having enough conversation in and around STEM. So thank you so much, Hina, for dwelling on this aspect. Moving on to you, Kaushiki. Kaushik, we were talking with Dr. Roy at the onset, where we were talking about how the impact of a patriarchal society in culture and our societal norms also act as a barrier in the way that women get represented in STEM in workplace. But right now we're talking about STEM. I want to ask you that though there is one aspect of the reality of patriarchy, society, societal norms, cultural nuances, but on the other hand, also, I think there are a lot of inspiring stories like Evelyn Berzin, who was the woman scientist who actually, I think, created the first computerized word processor that gave rise to word processor later. There is Kalpana Chawla, as we're all aware of. There is Kiran Majumdar Shaw. There is Ritu Karidhal. There are so many remarkable names in the STEM world. My question is there something that women can learn proactively, almost to the extent of learning it voraciously from other women leaders who've actually made a name for themselves in the STEM industry, despite having a lot of barriers in and around them? In case the answer is yes, what would those lessons from the STEM influencers look like?
Thank you for that question, Ridhima. I think again, there are a lot of these erudite leaders and accomplishments that we always get inspired by. But I'll always take a bit of a to my questions and try to answer a little alternately. I find every woman inspiring, to be honest. I come from that space where we all have a very unique struggle. We may come from privileged or non-privileged backgrounds. I lead a workforce where we have worked very, very conscientiously, but with a lot of objectivity and gender neutrality built into our processes to arrive from a 13 to a 26% representation, and it still sounds like it's not enough because it isn't. But that journey, made me meet a lot of people and I interact with this cohort to get to know their journeys, leadership or otherwise, to be honest, famous or not, because I think today you have so many different mediums. Someone's famous somewhere in some network. You're probably on, a superstar in your WhatsApp group, to maybe being a LinkedIn influencer, to, really having an alternate personality as well. But I tell you one thing, I think when we talk to other women, when we actually talk to them from a perspective of really inspiring ourselves or using their stories and sharing their stories with people, irrespective of the known names or no, I think known names, you Google them, you'll find a few things. You'll probably have a biography by now written already. There's a lot to learn, which is already in print or in some form or the other in terms of TEDx and stuff. But I really think the people that people will relate to are the ones that they feel, you just mentioned the fact that when you saw that the ISRO scientists look a certain way and it got normalized, that you don't have to have like a different identity. You don't look different to be different, really. You're actually just you. Honestly, that place of authenticity is feel is very inspiring. I've met a lot of people, not necessarily senior, junior, more or less famous, but their stories of what drives them have made me very, very inspired, to be honest. Like there's a story of a person who came from a very conservative background, got into engineering and rebelled against the family to really, fight against the fact that I don't want to get married. I want to do a job. And that became for that woman to actually, sorry, I just dropped my AirPod. Just give me a second.
We'll hang in there.
So I think the fact that that drove her to reach a point where she becomes a force to be reckoned with. Today, she's a lady I work with at the workspace. She's got 20 years of experience behind her. She's leading a massive team. She's inspiring on a daily basis. She's really becoming a champ for her people, for the company. She's not somebody famous, really, but worth knowing, I would say. And that's the way that I think we need to share and inspire. There's a lot to learn from some of the people that we have in these ERGs made for women in STEM or women in gaming or women in entertainment and media. And everyone has a story of how they perhaps broke a barrier, how they stood up, for themselves, or how they really learned and let their skills speak for themselves. And honestly, I think that's really relatable, because then you feel like you can do it too, honestly. So I think amplifying that is really important. We need to use, I think, mediums like these, to be honest. This webinar, if you do more of it and we don't do it just in the month of March, it's going to make that difference because it's going to happen more.
Yeah.
People will have that recall. They'll continue to see.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Kaushiki. I think again, very valid points. I'm gonna open the last because we are towards the culmination of this
Ridhima,
webinar.
can I just add one point to what
Of
Kaushik
course,
said?
Dr. Roy. Yes.
Can't really wait to add that. You spoke about Mission Mangal, which is that film which actually opened the
Mission
ISRO.
Mangal, they've done.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, right. They've done. Yeah,
But it's not just Mission Mangal. Just take the entire visibility quotient of women roles in Bollywood today. Okay. I mean, earlier there were
yeah,
prototypes. That's why I keep harping on the point. I'm sorry for repeating it, that role constructs need to
yeah,
be demystified.
yeah,
Today, you look at a movie called Fighter, completely mainstream. Okay.
yeah,
I'm sure people would love to go and see it because of Hrithik Roshan. But what I admired was that the character that Deepika Padukone played of a fighter pilot, okay, and somebody who was flying a chopper and rescuing people.
yeah,
Now, imagine what goes into somebody who qualifies to be a fighter pilot. One
yeah.
is, apart from the competencies and abilities, the kind of intellect that you need in understanding science.
Absolutely.
you know, Unfortunately, those doors were not even open to women till yesterday. But
Yeah,
today, the girls are in Navy, the girls are in Air Force, the girls are all over the place. The point is, we need to keep demystifying these roles. As Kaushiki very rightly said, they're all around us. You
yeah,
don't only need named achievers. You need to look at every achiever who's coming from every strata of life and making it for themselves against many odds. I think the more we keep celebrating those people and tell the next generation that, listen, you could be the next one. You
yeah.
know, don't believe in people who say you need to be only doing liberal arts, or that
Yeah.
you need to get into becoming a lawyer or a journalist. Fantastic if you're good at that. But is that the only option that you have for you? Let others not decide. Take a choice. So I think those are the kind of messaging that we need to do. Support coming from every quarter is welcome, but then the movement has to gather steam.
Very interesting point and intriguing point made, Devjani, and it actually takes me back to two anecdotes. The first anecdote is we were researching about DEI, and we were trying to figure out the difference between diversity and inclusion. And though we're talking about the developed nations, the statistics say it all that today there are more percentage of women in STEM in India rather than US,
Yes,
Canada, and
yes,
UK also. So in
that's right.
1953, Harvard had actually launched their first program for um, the law graduates for women. That was the first time women were allowed in the Harvard campus, and they did these press releases that this is the first cohort of women graduates. And when they were asked how their experience was, they said, okay, it was great and everything. We wish there was also a ladies' washroom installed for us in the campus. So that's where I feel at times you do DEI as this lofty, fancy looking thing, but there's no inclusion. That's number one. Number two, I feel this was an interesting anecdote in terms of a conversation I was having with the chairman of BVDO, Mr. Paul Joshi, and he was talking about the aspect that Ariel's Share the Load campaign came into being when they did this research, how these advertising firms do research. And there was a focus group discussion which was done by the employees of their Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi office, which, mind you, are metro cities, correct? And they asked the men and women there that, and everyone, all genders included, that what is the average time that you, as the man of the house, is spending on household chores versus women, again, metro city women working in a company like BBDO versus you in household chores. And men said that we, on an average, spend about 19 minutes on household chores. And can you guess that number, Dr. Roy, for women? How many minutes were that for women in a metro city?
I wouldn't even, dare to say it in minutes. I would say it in hours.
It is 7 hours. So, and this is a glaring reality of metro cities. And they said it could be coordinating with the house help. Sometimes the house help is not coming, so I have to coordinate with my boss, do the household chores. So, which is why my question was that is it really a semi-urban and rural reality? I think even in the
No,
urban arenas, that
no.
problem gets amplified because you as women have to play a dual role. So, I think it's everywhere.
And just to relate to the point you made, very well made, that it's as much an urban phenomena. Look at the
Yeah,
surf and the aerial ads where
yeah,
the woman rushes in with a portfolio and has to start doing the
yeah,
chores of the house even before she can take change into her
yeah,
attire that she's been in, and
yeah,
there's no help around. There's no
yeah,
help
yeah.
around.
Yeah,
So
it's. I think it's a reality, and it has nothing to do with which century we are living in. Definitely, the opportunities, the exposure have improved, but I think
yes,
deep down, women, whether they are in rural arena or in the urban arena, they're deep down grappling with the same
yes,
issues. Whether it is when to get married, whether it is to have a baby or not, whether it is to have lofty challenges or not, how it's going to impact work-life balance. I think they are by and large the same. Lovely. So as we come towards the culmination, audience, in case you have any more question, we'll take the last 2-3 minutes to take down those questions. And by the time you type your questions, I'm going to do a quick rapid fire of one question with each of our panel member. And that question is, we've
Actually,
spoken about policymakers, we've spoken about what organizations need to do, but I want to ask you one discernible behavior or action that a woman needs to take, whether she's in STEM, not in STEM, to really catapult her career. What would that action look like? And I'm going to be starting with you, Kaushiki, quickly. Till the time, audience, in case you have any question, please type that in the chat box so that we can take it on. But yeah,
Redma, sorry to interrupt. I think Kaushiki and Hina had some hard stop, so they
I
just
see.
was on the four. So we can go ahead with Devjani if
Yeah, Devjani, then it's you and me. Yeah,
I think it's both of us. I think I'll share and you can share your perspective.
yeah,
That one behavior that I will certainly, and I bear this out of my own experience, woman needs to support the next woman.
yeah,
Unfortunately, we don't do that enough. Okay, sometimes we play malevolent. Okay,
yeah,
and many a stories and anecdotes are there where the women actually instigated the fall of the next one. So
yeah,
unless we come clean with our own concerns, our own insecurities, face them straight away, look into the mirror and tell ourselves that the time has come for us to also clean up our act,
yeah.
and that's really extending a hand of support to women itself. So, women fraternity, women cohorts, please stand up for each other. I think that's going to do yeoman service, in taking this movement forward.
Yeah, I think, yeah, women really encouraging other women and not like in a cosmetic way, but actually meaning it. I think, again, very meaningful. I would suggest, Dr. Roy, the point that Hina was making about networking and the aspect that Kaushiki dwelled on, which was about amplifying a common woman's story. She may
Yes,
not be like a popular Instagram influencer
absolutely.
or
Yeah.
a Forbes magazine poster girl,
Mm.
but I think women intrinsically, and there's a lot of data that our consulting work also shows that women consider networking as second class citizen. It's not important. We let our work speak for ourselves. And because they're not networking enough, they're not exposed to enough stories. And what they get exposed to, what's happening in the four walls of either their home or in their office. And that's the world they know. But I think if they network generally with men, women, and I'm not only talking about women networking with women, I'm saying going out there and meeting people whose background, context, companies, experience, exposure is different than you. They say stories are nothing but data with soul. I think
Yes.
women need to be collecting enough stories of inspiration because I'm sure in your journey also, it was not a very straightforward line. My journey is also not very straightforward. We all deal with our own demons and barriers. The question is, do we take those boulders and barriers as full stop or those tiny commas that we have to navigate and move on? That's the choice we need to make. And I think if we as women are exposed to enough stories, those stories acts that internal impetus for us to move on. So that would be my 2 cents.
No, that is absolutely right, because I've always maintained that beyond a point, you need to be gender agnostic. Okay.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
matter of choice, it's a matter of opportunity, it's a matter of delivery at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
Okay. But what happens is, because we are focusing on a specific area, which has
Yeah.
been such a problem area for so long, which is the
Yeah.
STEM field, you
Yeah.
know, that's the reason why the woman part of supporting another woman in the same trajectory in the path becomes a little important.
Yes.
Otherwise, out there, you're absolutely right, every story needs to be held as one's own, and that
Yeah.
doesn't need to be defined by gender.
Yeah.
Okay, it's born out of experience, and it's born out of how you carve out your lifestyle.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Devjani. And I think Kaushiki has logged out, and so has Hina. But I think extremely pragmatic, really actionable, and brimmed with lot of actionable stories. So to say, I think my biggest learning is the fact that we need to work on it at a systemic level, and also at an organization level. We need to create policies, initiatives that are not only talking about women in terms of diversity, but also including them, whether it's
Yeah,
on the table, whether it's on business role, and
yeah.
having constructs which are based on meritocracy rather than gender. So, with this, we come towards the culmination. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much, Dr. Roy, for your time. And thank you, HRAI, for curating such a compelling platform where such important, meaningful, and I would say topics which are dwelled in the minds of people in the form of questions, dilemmas, and really bringing those dilemmas out loud and figuring out a mechanism to demystify those dilemmas month on month, year on year is done so consistently. So, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ridhima. I think that was amazing moderation, and thank you for pulling out all the skeletons from the cupboard and placing them on the table.
My pleasure. Stay connected, Dr. Roy. We'll chat.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Ridhima, for guiding us through this session with your intuitive and perceptive insights. Expressing our gratitude to Ms. Kaushiki, Dr. Debjani, and Ms. Hina for generously sharing their valuable thoughts and perspectives. It has truly been an honor to have such distinguished speakers contributing to this engaging session. Before we close the session, we will be running a poll to have the participants' valuable feedback on this session. For those who are eager to learn and grow, the recording of today's session is available on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. As we wrap up today's session, a special thanks goes out to our event partners, Geisha, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Talgro, TLE, WICCI for their invaluable support to HRA events. To explore more about these associations, please visit the link provided in the chat window. Do join us for a masterclass series starting from 26th of March 2024. That concludes today's webinar. We look forward to your participation in future sessions. Wishing you continued health and safety on your journey. Until our paths cross again, take care, stay positive, and farewell for now.
Thank you,
Thank
Faisal.
you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
HRAI.
Thank you, Mr. Deva.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.